So I had like this use case come up where, we've kind of been all in on Delta Lake. It's an awesome tool. Like I don't even use Postgres anymore. It's like, forget it, man. This is Delta Lake all the way. I don't need it. So I actually had this use case where I had this, Delta Lake table that was being populated from a, just normal Spark pipeline, but I actually needed the individual records out of that Delta Lake table to kick off a bunch of downstream pipelines to basically like train models. So if that makes sense, I have a Delta Lake table and then I need to go hit that table and get, maybe 20 records out of that Delta Lake table. And each one of those I needed to like kick off a downstream pipeline in Airflow, like a whole complex machine learning pipeline, right? Very complex DAG. And this is like, dang it, my data's at Delta Lake. What do? I can't do that. How am I supposed to do a Spark? I can't kick off Airflow pipelines with Spark. It's crazy. How am I going to solve this problem? And basically, this has been running in production for over a year. I just used Polars because it was one of the first, Polars had Delta Lake support a long time ago. This is a Unity catalog table. At the time, this was when they didn't have the Unity catalog integration. So I just, read the raw URI of that Delta Lake table. And this is an actual snippet from the production code where this is running inside an Airflow worker, just to make that clear. This is all inside Airflow worker, so it has nothing to do with Spark. Basically what happens is Airflow worker, you pass it a path of a Delta Lake table. In this case, it was a Unity catalog table. And it just read that Delta table very easily, right? And it pulled all those records out into a data frame. And basically, you can see here, it's passing the path of that Delta Lake table, and it's going ahead and reading that Delta reader that we just saw. It reads it into a data frame. And in this case, I'm filtering it down to a certain job ID, right? Some job ran, and it populated this Delta table with a bunch of records. I went and hit that Delta Lake table record with Polars and an Airflow worker, pulled it into a data frame, said, hey, I'm interested in this one job. And after this is what happens next. And I sort of commented out some code in the middle there, but basically what happens is on that Airflow worker, I would go ahead and take those records from Polars and I build up basically the arguments that I needed from that Delta Lake table and pass them, kicked off other DAGs inside Airflow, right? So all of a sudden, I kick off one Airflow DAG, it goes and hits the Delta Lake table, pulls those records back with Polars, and then all of a sudden it floods off, got all these different configurations out of the actual records, lines from my Delta Lake table, my Polars data frame, and kicks off these downstream pipelines. All 20 of them are however many here in that job ID. This is pretty cool. I just wanted to show you that real life production use case.